CleanHub is a for-profit organization, and I want to explain why, because we get that question quite a lot. First of all, I think there's a principled answer to it, and then there's a more nuanced answer to it. And my principled answer is, I think in the end we could ask that question to any organization out there. Why are you for-profit and not a non-profit? Let's take energy companies. Isn't it for the good of everyone if there's affordable energy available? So why does an energy company need to make a profit? If you provide food and beverages, why is your company not a non-profit? Isn't it good to provide nutrients to a civilization? Does that need to be for profit? And especially when it comes to the environmental sector and towards the common good, the question is often like, why are you not doing that as a non-profit? I think it's a fair question, but at the same time, I think we need to shift our mindsets a little bit and also say, actually preserving the planet that we all live on should be allowed to also make profit in a capitalistic society. So this is a bit my principled answer. I think it's completely fine as a company in the operating system of capitalism to turn a profit. We could have a conversation around greed and how much profit CleanHub is supposed to make. We can have that conversation at some point. Right now, we're not making a profit. So we are currently still loss-making, and this is only possible because we chose to be a for-profit organization, because we actually have investors in the background. Investors always want their money plus back. So their goal is to at some point see a liquidity event that CleanHub sells for more money than what they invested in us. And the question is then, what is the bet? What is the product that we're building? And to really understand that, you need to look at the two activities that CleanHub is doing. On the one hand side, we're building these projects, we're funding these projects with you that collect plastic waste. And on the other side, we're building a software that tracks and traces all this collection. And what that is doing is it's providing an auditing service. We're making sure that the environmental claims that are being made can uphold. And this system does not only work for these voluntary plastic collection activities, but can also work for supply chains where recycled plastic is being used, and brands by law need to evidence, for example, that this is really recycled plastic. They need to be in a position to prove the source of that plastic. Or if they set public collection targets and say, we want to collect as much plastic as we put into the market, they by now, especially in the European Union, need to provide the data to actually back up that claim. And this software product is the part of CleanHub that is scalable, that is growing, or that we hope to grow in the future, and where we see a potential to build a company that can sell for a certain price at some point. Now you could say, is like, why didn't you put this project business in a not-for-profit and then have CleanHub itself, the software business, as a for-profit? And I think that's also a fair question, but it comes with a lot of overhead, with a lot of explanation, and this is why we initially decided against it. Now, obviously, we thought about how can we still protect the mission of CleanHub. And we took a few measures when we started the company. So on the one hand, we had the B Corp clause in our founding contracts from the very early days before the first investors came in. And since this year, since 2025, we are also a certified B Corp. The second part that we did is we said we don't want this company go into the wrong hands, which means we want to remain in the business of cleaning up the planet. We do not want to become, for example, an energy provider to cement companies or other heavy industries that rely on plastic waste that cannot be recycled as a fuel substitute. So we closed that exit path. We're not allowed to sell the company to the cement companies, for example. The other aspect would be, and something that people worry about, is that CleanHub is just a greenwashing vehicle for the oil and gas industry, that if at some point CleanHub becomes too big, they will just snatch the company away. And also this exit path is closed, so this cannot happen, at least as long as I have a say in the company. This is also in the founding documents of CleanHub. So I would say we did protect our mission quite strongly, and this would be the one reason for me to be a non-profit, if there wouldn't be any other way on how to protect the mission. On the other side, and I include myself with that, sure, I am motivated by financial independence. I think a lot of you that are listening to this are, and I think also a lot of the people in the free market are incentivized by financial independence and want a good salary and don't want to volunteer all their work and not gain anything. So we also made a conscious decision that we want to attract the best talent in the market. I'm not saying that people working at NGOs are untalented, but if you look into the salary lists of big NGOs, these people still make a lot of money. So salary is not the only part, but still we feel it's easier to attract talent as a for-profit organization, and without good talent, we also can't reach our mission. It does allow CleanHub to grow faster. It allows CleanHub to make investments into specific areas, like the software, which still didn't pay back. It allows us to operate at a loss, at least for a certain time. And we always make sure that we have enough cash available that, again, we can also protect the mission. And lastly, the thing that we learned over time is actually by not being a non-profit, you close certain funding doors, because specific foundations are only allowed to give monies to NGOs. This is what's called a blended finance approach, that you open an organization to both be able to get money through non-profit activities and through for-profit activities. And this is why last year we did start an NGO called Wild Shores, together with one of our brand partners actually, which is a 501c in the US. And through that we can also accept donations, but the core business will remain in the private limited organization of CleanHub. I hope that this extended explanation on why CleanHub is a for-profit and not a non-profit gives you the clarity, and I hope also the understanding of why we chose that path. If you disagree, feel free to reach out to us. We can discuss everything, but I think you also deserve transparency in how we think about these topics. And with that, we can close this topic.